Hello, welcome to another episode of IT Pro TV. I'm your host, Mike Roderick, and with me today is Mr. Sean Oriano. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Another exciting day here at IT Pro TV. We're continuing on with our Kali Linux series, and in this episode, we're actually continuing something we started in a previous episode, and that was uncovering information about the network. Trying to figure out where our target resides and getting as much information as we can. If you missed the previous episode, go back and check it out. We took a look at a couple tools like Whois and NSLookup. These are tools that you should be familiar with at this point in your career anyway. We've talked about them in several different classes, but now we're going to continue on and see what other tools we can use and what kind of information we can uncover. So where do we want to start today, Sean?
Well, what we're gonna take a look at is, we've already done quite a bit of investigation. Now the next thing is that after we have that information, and to revisit what we have is we have that stuff from our open source intelligence gathering, because we said prior that we're not going to do all of that here, where we do all the Google hacking and all that. That hasn't changed one bit, so we cover that well enough someplace else. What we're going to do here is we're going to assume that you have things like DNS information, that you have some stuff that's available in Whois. We'll assume that you've got IP ranges in there, so we will we'll just kind of chalk it up that those things have already been done and those things are present. So now the next thing to do is to start seeing if we have any what type of systems we have out there, if they're live or not. And so we have ways of doing that. One of the ways we can do that is by doing what's called a ping sweep. Just in case you do not remember that from before, a ping sweep is a way of just going across an IP range and finding those hosts that are actually live on there. Because remember, you can have a pretty substantially sized range of IPs, and there may only be a small portion of that that's actually being used. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. You could have 100 and only have 10 being used.
Yeah, some of these companies went out early on and grabbed a Class B block of addresses, and we know there's 65,000 some odd host addresses available on that. Doesn't necessarily mean they have 65,000 hosts, right? So we don't want to waste our time hitting IP addresses that aren't live. So we can run these kind of tools and find your live hosts and then focus our energies on those.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole name of the game, is trying to refine what we're doing, refine our attack instead of just carpet bombing, which is what we'd be doing if we just acted on the IP ranges that we already have. We want to narrow that down. So you're going to take that IP range and you're going to perform a ping sweep or a sweep across it to see which ones are live. Fortunately, we've got plenty of tools that can help us out with that specific task. Now, you may recall on the Windows side, we had things like Angry IP was a custom-built one that did just that. There's other ones, Nmap, which we have available over here on the Linux side as well. It will do that. But there are others, to be sure, that do the exact same type of thing and may do it a little faster, a little bit better. You'll find that on the Linux side, there are some things that do ping sweeps, and they do them just incredibly fast. Some of the claims you even think about, there's no way it's doing that. But we'll take it with a grain of salt. I don't know how big a grain of salt that's going to be, but we'll assume that. I know there was one I looked at that's on the list and of tools in Kali, and the creators of it claim that you could hit every IP address that's available on the internet in 6 minutes. Okay.
That might that might be a stretch.
Yeah, whatever. I'll do whatever.
Hey, maybe.
I don't know how you can confirm that, but whatever. Just like it's, I just want for the record, by saying, just to bring it out, since we can't measure that, I can swim faster than Michael Phelps. I just don't time myself, so we don't really know. So anyway, but
their claims set aside, we as long as we can get the information fast, that's a good thing. Whether it can hit every IP address out there in the world in 6 minutes, meh. I've seen you swim. You're pretty fast.
So what we want to do is we want to do that whole ping sweep, or we want to identify live hosts. Now, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a tool called fping. And you do have ping, by the way, available in Kali. It's not, it's not the fact that it's not there. It's just ping's designed to be a one-of utility that you go on a one-by-one basis. It's got its own options and all that to do all its stuff, but it's not really ideal for doing a ping sweep. Yeah, you could script it to do that, but why go through all that trouble if we have another way? Fping gives us that other way. So what I have here in my virtual machine is I have a command put up here, and what that command's doing, I'm not going to worry about the switches right now. Those switches are basically telling us about the range and stuff like that it's going to do. So what you're seeing is fping, and then if we skip over the switches, we can see that we have a couple IP addresses defined there. What that is, if you look really closely at it, one of them is the start of that range, and one's towards the end. So we've got that. The next thing I have in there is I have that little greater than symbol, and it says host.txt. So what that's going to do is that's going to run that fping command, and it is going to it's going to sweep across that whole range and dump the stuff out to that host.txt, and then I'll have a file that I can go ahead and use. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and hit enter on that, and it can take some time to do. Once it's done, what I will see sitting over here in my home folder, let me open up my my home folder here, is I will see a host.txt pop up sitting there just in this folder. So when I open that host.txt up, it'll start dumping information into that. Now looks like looks like it's done. Let's see if it found anything. I just dumped in a range, so it didn't find anything live on there. Well, that range I didn't want to use the IP range that's here because I don't know what's going to show up. What do you have for the? Well, do you have the IP range?
Let's see. How about this? Let me find you a range real quick that we can use. It's just fping, right? We can't get into too much trouble. We say that now. If we lose broadcast, you'll know what happened. Let's do a 10.1.230 network. It's a Class C, so from 1 to 255 or whatever you want to scan in there.
Okay, fair enough. We will do that. So we'll just dump this in. Well, I'll do 250 just to make it there, and I'll put in itpro.txt so we can differentiate it in there. So what I should see when I hit that is it'll take a moment. So there we go. It's spitting out information. It couldn't contact the other ones, so it didn't really do much on there. But this one, so it's going through, and you can see host unreachable. So that's telling us, well, there's nothing living behind those.
A good chunk of them. I mean, that's a Class C range, so there's 255 addresses. We've got about 10, 15 hosts on there, so most of them are going to be empty, I would imagine. But
yeah, so we've got that now. It went ahead and it stopped. Let's see if it dumped anything into our file this time. Looks like it's still kind of working on some stuff there. So let me see if I can open this up. Okay, well, it went through, and yeah, you're not using them all, but you can see it has definitely said that there are some live hosts back there, and so those are a list of our live hosts.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive, because even I'm on this network, I didn't realize we had that many hosts out there, so already gathering information that I was unaware of.
Yeah, so and look at how quick that was. That was a very, very easy way of gathering that data.
Right.
And so and because I added on that little bit on the end, it went right directly to a file, and I'm ready to go. I can use that someplace else. So and remember that syntax at the end. You can see Mike's put it in the chat room for you. You can, if you drop the first part of that, and you look at the greater than sign and then the .txt, I could replace that host.txt with any text file name you want. You could put host.txt. You could put something else if you want. Whatever you put in there, it'll just dump it directly into that file. Since when I open my shell in Kali, it opens it up in my home folder. What I can do is when I write everything out to a file, you can see all I had to do is go up to my Places menu and hit my home folder, and all my stuff just shows up right there.
Nice.
So I'm making it really easy for myself to get this data. So there you go. That's fping. You can use another tool if you want. There are other tools in Kali that do a similar things, if not the exact same thing. So if this isn't to your liking, you've got the other ones. Another one is mass scan, that you can use to do the same type of thing.
And don't forget any of these commands, right? At least I know for fping, if you do a fping space -- help, you'll get some syntax help on it, so you can see what those other switches do, like A, generating that list of live hosts, and what was G, Sean, generates the target list. So lots of different switches. You can even throw a Q in there to do a quiet, so you don't have to look at that output. If you're putting it out to a file anyway, maybe you don't want to see that stuff scrolling across your screen. So yeah, fping, we got a couple other tools we can use, and just gathering information about that target network, finding those live hosts.
Yeah, you're gathering a good amount of information. So we're doing pretty good at this point with the information that we have. So if we start looking back, we have our like I said, our DNS info. We've got our whois info. Now what do we have? We have our IP stuff. And by the way, when you start adjusting those switches, the reason why when we look at that stuff in the that we have in the chat room, that -G in there, it showed you just the hosts that were live in there. You could dump a lot more out to that file if you wanted by sticking on more switches on there to get different results. I just didn't see fit to do that here to muddy the waters, but you could definitely go ahead and bring in more into the mix if you really want to do it. I would tell you to play around with it. That's what the whole purpose of getting this in a sandbox environment and poking around with it is. That's what it's designed to do. Okay, so other tools that we have available. So we want to start digging into DNS a bit more. We have some other tools sitting out here. We have the DNS tool sitting out here. So if we look at this this one. We have this DNS enumerate one. So this is one of the things, by the way, when you do this, is that when you bring up some of these tools, you pick them off the menu. Notice that this thing just puked a bunch of stuff out for me. It can be a little messy sometimes when you look at this. All of a sudden, just like boom, a bunch of stuff comes out, and you're like, oh, what the heck just happened? Well, it's bringing up all this extra stuff. If you haven't used this stuff before, then I would definitely go ahead and take a look at it. But it's running that -- help you were talking about. Right. So I'm going to do a DNS enumerate. What this is going to do is I'm going to tell it to start to look at a specific domain. And to look at the ones underneath it. Notice it can. You'll notice one of the options up top in there says it can even do a whois lookup on these things as it's pulling them up. You may want to consider whether or not that's worthwhile for you to do that. But once you do that, it'll puke out all the stuff that we had seen before. So we can have. So I'm putting the -R in there. You can see that I can write the stuff out to a file. In here, I can tell it to do reverse lookups. In here, you'll see, where is it? If you can do this -- no reverse, and it will, do a reverse lookup for you, or won't do a reverse lookup for you. So that's actually kind of neat. So you
might make it go a little faster. Don't have to spend all that time trying to resolve the DNS name from those IP addresses.
Yeah, it can do just a lot, a lot for you. So what I'll do is I'll just limit it to those options, and this should work. So if I put in, well, let me just do www. I'll do Microsoft.com. What the heck? Why not? So
they don't mind.
So what it did here, it went by really quickly. So If you didn't catch all that, just rewind and pause every moment. Well, I'll put you through that, of course. What I've got here is, so there's where the go right there. There's where I started my command. So it's a Perl script. You can see there. So this is actually a script it's running. So it is going from Microsoft.com. What we have is we can see you can see that it's got some records with it. So there's the A records. So boom, we've got that. You can see the IP address. It is wrapping for me. So that's just a resolution thing there. There's the name servers. The name servers with their IP addresses. Remember what we had before? We had the name servers from a previous thing, and I said I was showing you some of those things just so you could see a baseline of it, as well as get started. Well, here's a way we can get the name servers, and we can get the IP addresses that go with that. So we've knocked that out.
Nice.
So we've got that, but if we go down the list, we can see some other stuff going on with these records. There's the mail server records. So boom, we've got those things and their IP addresses. So we've got a target list. And now here's the really cool one. Okay, as we get to the bottom of this, you can see it saying trying zone transfers and bind versions. Well, let's just kind of do a quick, a little quick overview of a zone transfer just to make sure we're all on the same page with it. A zone transfer is where one DNS server, gives a copy of its database or what it's got in there to another one to keep it up to date. So and that zone file is the IP or named IP mappings and vice versa. So zone transfers are a normal part of DNS. That just happens. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see a zone transfer happening to just anybody that requests it. It should only go from one DNS server to another DNS server that is authorized to have it. It shouldn't be to anyone else just as they see fit. If you have that situation where it can go wherever it wants, and I find that situation exists, I have the potential to go and transfer a copy of your zone file to my system, and we have plenty of tools that are designed specifically to do that. And once they transfer that zone file, I can browse that zone file, and I have a map of your network now.
Absolutely. I mean, if you guys remember back to your either your Microsoft training or any basic Network Plus training, right? That DNS zone file has all the host records for that network. So that means every machine's name and IP address, both IPv4 and IPv6, has all your MX records, your DNS, your NS, your name server records, your start of authority. I'm thinking all your SRV records, right? Which machines are running which services. To a bad guy, that's beautiful. That is, like you said, a map to the entire network. I now know which machines I want to target in future attacks. So we really got to make sure we're controlling who's allowed to receive a zone transfer. And this is a good way to test whether or not they've got that DNS server set up properly and limiting that appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely. By doing this here, I've seen that we had four name servers, so 4 DNS servers taking care of this specific domain for Microsoft.com, and you can see that all 4 of them refused a zone transfer. We attempted one, or this tool attempted one, and it got a response back of no go. That's what you want to see. It doesn't mean that those servers aren't doing zone transfers. It absolutely does not mean that. Mm-hmm. It just means it won't do a zone transfer to you, and that's fine. I should not have it where just as a random requester out here say, yeah, you want to copy the zone file? Sure, welcome to the party. It should not do that. So here I see that, and that's good information. It also saves you some time with stuff later on, because there are other ways you can do zone transfers to be sure. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can type into the command line to do this through things like NSLOOKUP and stuff like that. You can also do port scans and find out if port 53 TCP is open. That will tell you that the door is open for a potential zone transfer situation. But those things, getting them at that point is all well and good, or doing it manually at the command line is good. But here, boom, right away, we've seen, yeah, we can't do it. We have that information. Mm-hmm. So we know if we're looking for what is in those zone files, we're going to have to find another way to get it, because this is not going to fly right here. So
now
this
we know
is really good.
It changes the path we might be going to give more information. We know zone transfer is not going to be an option.
Yeah, that's been taken off the table at this point. So you can't do it. It's telling you right now this is not possible. So right now, just with a few simple things. I mean, you can see that DNS enum command in the in the chat room, and the one I put up here, that DNS enum -R, and then you just put whatever domain name you want in there. You can see just off of that I acquired quite a bit of information. It's definitely not the end-all, do-all of information that's in there. I mean, you can see that there are a lot of things that you can pull out of this. I mean, you can see in here it's got stuff to even go through and look at Google. It can query stuff through through Google in there. You can adjust how long it waits for something if you have a slow network, perhaps. I mean, you can do quite a bit with this. So that is a pretty neat thing for us to have. I mean, if we look at let's see, let's try just for for a kicks down here, and we'll put in over here for Microsoft. Let's see if we put in the -P for looking up the Google stuff. Let's see if it brings anything out for us. Well, it didn't. I guess I got to put more options in there. I hadn't tried that one before, but hey, you know what? Whatever. But but you can see it's got it's got different options in there that you can go ahead and use. It's got the -W. That's probably not going to bring me too much, but anyway. So that's DNS enum. It's a very, very nice tool for you to have in your arsenal. You've just done a lot of intelligence gathering right there off of that.
Absolutely, that's a great one there. So we got their IP address ranges. We've seen how we could do ping sweeps. We've got our whois that we did earlier, right? Of course, we've got all of our open source intelligence gathering that we've done. Now we've got our DNS enum, great tool there. What else we got here? I know I got one on your list that I was unfamiliar with. POF, is that how we say that one?
Yeah, POF. This is one of the things I guess the hackers, and they had to do the elite speak in there. It's actually P0F.
P0F.
So if you type POF at the command line, it's gonna like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, P0F. So, okay. So the way this works is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna run it, and then I'm gonna do some stuff and show you exactly what it's doing, because it just makes it that much easier. So the way this utility works is I do P0F, you do -I, and you should remember from yesterday we were talking about the interface names. We went through and we did the interface names. I went in and I did an ifconfig, and remember we have there's my interface names eth0 and LO for the loopback address. So we're not going to use that one, a loopback adapter, that virtual one. So I've got eth0. So what I want to do is I have that. I'm going to put the name of the interface in here. I'm going to do ETH0. So boom, got that right there. And what it's telling this is it's telling this utility to listen on the interface named ETH0. So I go ahead and I start that up, and boom, I get that on screen. And okay, now what? Nothing interesting is happening right now. So what's it doing? Well, to really see what this thing's doing, what you got to do is you got to open up something, like your web browser. So I'm going to open up my web browser right here, and it brings up this page, but this isn't really going to help me too much because this page is locally hosted. So what I could do is I could do www. I'll do like itpro.tv. I'll do that, and I should be able to connect to it through here, which it goes ahead and it's connecting to it. Okay, so we've just proven that the website's up, right?
Right.
There's more to it. There's more to it than that. I'm not setting the bar that low.
Good.
So what I've got here is, if I look back, this is where this is the screen where I was running, or the console I was running POF or P0F. Okay. So what's happening is I'll go right, back. Well, that's the DNS enum stuff. Let me go right there. So there's my P0F stuff starting at the bottom of this. So if you go through this, and more than likely if you're doing this sort of thing, you're going to be doing it through, or you're going to be piping this out to a text file. I didn't do that here, but you could very well just dump this out to a text file to make it a lot easier for you. So what I've got is you can actually see the conversation, if you will, between this system and another system. And if we go over and look at the IP address of my system's ends in 128. If I go back over to here, you can see my system is making a request out to another system on port 80. So that's the IT Pro server out there. So it's identifying the client. So I see that. You can even see the flag being set, by the way. Notice that, the SYN flag. So it's a TCP connection that's going out. So if I keep going down the list, what do we see? We see, another thing coming out from my system to the or what down here. I see actually the remote system down here. My system making another connection to the remote system down here. And you can, as you scroll through that, you'll notice that there's communication going back and forth between the two systems, and P0F, what it's doing is it's actually looking at the traffic as it goes by passively. It's basically a kind of sniffer, and so it's looking at the traffic going back and forth, but instead of actually displaying like the raw traffic and all the stuff that's inside there, it's formatting it and telling you, hey, this is based on what I see and what I know for my own database. Notice, and you can still see it on the top of my screen. You can notice that there's this loaded 320 signatures from P0F, FP. It's got that, and it's saying it's listening on this one, and it's ready to go. So what it's doing is when it sees that traffic come by, it's looking at it and saying, okay, that traffic as it goes by, I am fingerprinting it with what I know and what I have on file, and it's saying, boom, this is what I know that is.
Nice.
So that's where it's getting that. It's telling you this is exactly what the operating system is. So as you keep going through, and it's not going to be 100%. I mean, there's something where it says the OS. It's got question marks there. I don't know what that is. So that very well could happen. But there you see there's something going right from my browser. What I see down there, that is more than just the requests we saw earlier where it had the raw stuff down there and some whatever after it. That's the actual browser saying at a request. You can see it's an HTTP request, and if I look at that down there, you can see user agent information, language. You can see that. You can see a bunch of stuff in here. It's telling you information about that specific browser, such as it is.
And it continues to listen the whole time while you've got that running. So as you go to different web pages, that information just keeps on scrolling by.
Yeah, you just keep going. You keep going out doing your stuff, and by the way, it doesn't even have to be just web pages. It can be anything, any type of traffic that moves over that interface where that's listening. It will fingerprint it, or at least attempt to fingerprint it.
So if I connect to a file server or email or something like that, that would be there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
If you were to transfer a file back and forth or something like that, it would try to identify that traffic as it goes back and forth. So you're just seeing the results of all of that. I mean, heck, even look on here. If you scroll through and start taking a look at it, it's even bringing up stuff like uptime in here. I mean, 17 hours, 18 minutes. It's got those types of things. All going right on through. There's another browser request, another browser request. I can't say I've ever seen a parameter called dishonest, but it says that. Wouldn't it be great if the real world was like that?
Yeah, right.
So it's
it's called the Scarlet Letter.
Yeah. So nice. But you're seeing right there. I mean, it's just going right through. This is just essentially a log of our communication process. You can see stuff back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, there's some syntax going. So we're seeing the three-way handshake, in play. There's another response. I mean, so just a really neat utility. And I didn't really do much. I mean, notice just typed it out, started it up, and opened up a browser, typed in an address, and flip back over and have what I want. You don't have to do anything really other than that.
Except stop it. How do we stop it once we've got it going?
Control C.
Ah, there we go. Good. I figured that was a good one right there too.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Reboot the system.
Yeah. All right. Then you got another one on our list called DNS Walk.
Yeah, that's another one that we have available to us, and let me clear that out. So if you do DNS walk on here, what it's going to do is you can see in here. So I just went ahead. You can pull it off the menu if you want. I just went ahead and did it the simple way since it's already here. You can do DNS walk. You can see the format of it. You do DNS walk, and then you put in a domain name in after that. So once you type in the domain name, it should just pop right back up. Not bring it up for me. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's right. This is the one that always screws me up.
The truly fully qualified domain name with that dot at the end of the name. It's going to get really picky about that.
Yeah, this is one of those ones. It gets me on this a lot, not all the time, but it gets me on this. It tells you, it's like, well, that's the right one, idiot. I know what's going on. Like, oh, the dot. No one thinks about that.
Nope.
So
it told me what to do, and I still didn't put it in, and I get the error, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
So what we're seeing here is you're seeing some of the same type of stuff I did previously with DNS and Noom, but this is just a much tighter version of it. So if you just need to see if you're able to transfer something, this could be a way to accomplish that.
Or to verify results, we've got that other tool. So
yeah, you can do it that way too.
Trying to run two different tools, yeah.
Yeah, so we've confirmed that we definitely cannot do a zone transfer with this domain, but who knows? I mean, you could go someplace else and find it. There's nothing saying that we can't find a zone transfer someplace. It's not uncommon if I typed in something like just some random stuff in here. There's when I typed in USA Today .com and it went ahead and refused it as well. But don't be surprised if you do see that. If you do see it being available, I would tell you we're just kind of randomly doing it here. But if you in your initial recon stuff you had found like a Windows 2000 system, which they are out there, you find a Windows 2000 system, it's not uncommon. Or it wasn't uncommon to see those systems where zone transfers, anybody that requested it was configured.
Yeah.
So if you see that, I might very well just make a leap of faith here for a second and go, let's see if I can do a zone transfer. It might very well work. It wasn't until 2003 and later that Microsoft made the default to only go to specific ones and not just, hey, you ask and you'll receive.
Yeah.
And they changed it. So it's that little bit of knowledge again to hit that whole platform knowledge that is so vital for us to do pen testing successfully. That's one of those little details that is really going to get you mileage. You can say, oh well, if that's there, let me try this. Who knows? Maybe the person was smart about it and turned that option off. But it's also just as likely that they didn't because it wasn't something that you really thought about.
Absolutely, or some lazy admin can't get his DNS transfers to work between authorized servers, and he just says, you know what, I'm just going to turn this allow zone transfers to any server on, try to fix the problem, and then forget to turn it back off, right? Or just think that's the way you're supposed to fix it. So definitely worth a try because you could gain a whole lot of information if it does work.
And that's another good point. Not only would they have never touched it in some cases and just left it on, there's also the ones that I do recall in some cases people would try, they couldn't get it working when it would just go to specific ones, so they said just turn on it when it requests and it works all of a sudden magically, and they're like, I don't want to mess with it, it works, I'll leave it alone. And they're not thinking about, there's that other side of things that you just open it up for everybody. And just remember little gotchas like that.
Absolutely. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of great information on information gathering, right? Doing our recon process, a lot of cool tools there. We looked at FPing and DNS and NUM and POF and DNS walk. So a lot of cool tools that I can start using to help me with that reconnaissance process, right? Gather all that information. But looking at the clock, we're about out of time for this episode. But don't fret, we've got more information gathering episodes coming your way. We're going to take a look at gathering information about web servers, right? That public presence that almost every company has. It's got to be a good source of information. So we're going to take a look at some of the tools that we can use to get that info. But for now, signing off for IT Pro TV, I'm Mike Roderick.
And I'm Sean Ariano.
And we'll see you next time.